sets the law of the spirit of life in motion for us. Prayer is essential, not to the salvation of the soul, for the soul is never lost, but to the conscious well-being of the soul that does not understand itself. As fire warms the body, as food strengthens us, as sunshine raises our spirit, so there is a subtle transfusion of some invisible force in such communion, weaving itself into the very warp and woof of our own mentalities. This conscious commingling of our thought with spirit is essential to the well-being of every part of us. Wow. I want to continue that reading because we are going to comment on the major points in that reading, because without really hitting those high points, it's just a reading. We need to find out what each paragraph is saying to us. Holmes says, that which tends to connect our minds with the universal mind lets in a flood of its consciousness. If we think of God as a heavenly dictator somewhere, something apart from that which lives and moves and has its being where we are, then we are certain to believe ourselves disconnected from this infinite presence. But the inevitable consequence of such thinking would be a terrible fear that we should never be able to make contact with him. But if we know God as an indwelling presence, our prayer is naturally addressed to the presence in us. We long for and need a conscious union with the infinite. This is as necessary to the nature and intellect of man as food is to the well-being of his physical body. He continues, so we learn to go deeply within ourselves and speak as though there were a presence that knows, and we should take the time to unearth this hidden cause, to penetrate this inner chamber of consciousness. It is most worthwhile to commune with spirit, to sense and feel it. The approach to spirit is direct through our own consciousness. It is most worthwhile to commune with spirit, to sense and feel it. The approach to spirit is direct through our own consciousness. The spirit flows through us. Whatever intelligence we have is the spirit in us. Prayer is its own answer. And somewhere else he says the answer to prayer is in the prayer. So every time we are praying about the answer, not about something else. We can be certain that there is an intelligence in the universe to which we may come that will guide and inspire us, a love which overshadows. God is real to the one who believes. There we go. To the one who believes in the Supreme Spirit, real to the soul and senses its unity with the whole. On page 153. You know, all this reading leads to a few conclusions that I've come to, and I'll share those with you. But I want to boldly now say to you that I have personally experienced some of what we just read. Personally experienced the presence of God as a silent inner calm, an assurance that makes me feel unconquerable. It makes me feel peaceful and happy, blissful. It's really indescribable. But we need to take the time. Those of us who want to have that essence, that sense of connection, we need to take the time to be alone with God, to be alone with that presence, to contemplate that presence in a way that we are not begging, we are not asking, we are simply opening to reveal the God that's already in us. And that's the secret to really experiencing God, is that we don't have to ask God to come. God is always present. We don't have to ask God to fill us. God is filled us anyway because we have no life without God. The life that we have is God life. So we need to acknowledge what already is there and allow it to come to the surface of our minds and to really become one with it. And when that happens, you're going to feel a peace that passeth understanding, as I say in the scriptures, a peace that passeth understanding. That kind of peace cannot be described in language, in human language. It can only be felt, and it can be shared by feeling only, not simply by hearing. You know, every day and every hour, we are meeting this eternal reality in life. Holmes says on page 154, and in such a degree as we co-create with these eternal realities in love, in peace, in wisdom, and in joyful believing and in receiving, we are automatically blessed. Our prayer is answered before it is uttered. Isn't that a wonderful way to walk through life? That your prayer is always answered before you utter it. You know, in the scriptures, in the gospel, Jesus was teaching and he said, before they call, I will answer. This is really in perfect harmony with what God has really given us. The Great Spirit has really given us the opportunity to speak our word with that conviction that before we are done speaking it, it's already answered. The reason we don't realize that answer is because of disbelief. It's because of fear, because we think that God is somewhere else. God is right where we are, folks. God is present every second, every tiny little moment. The universe is a spiritual system. If it's a spiritual system, that's why we are spiritual beings. And guess what? We are always behaving as a spiritual being, not appropriately in a lot of the times, but we are always spiritual beings. We can't change that. Its laws are those of intelligence. We approach it through the mind, which enables us to know, will, and act. Prayer, faith, and belief are closely related to mental attitudes. So it's not just some pie in the sky level of consciousness that we have to try to go to. It is a mental attitude. You ever had an attitude in your life? Don't answer the question, because everybody has had an attitude. You know, a lot of us have been accused of having a certain kind of attitude that is not welcome. So we know what attitude means. We know what concepts come into our mind when we hear the word attitude. Prayer is an attitude of the mind. It's a mental, you have to make mental connection with that universal truth of your being. And then it translates into sensing, feeling, experiencing that one. We don't have to try hard. We simply have to be simple and straightforward about it. And we can really, really have that. You know, in the beginning of the reading, it says, let me read that to you. It says, prayer is not an act of trying to overcome God's reluctance. There are a lot of people who pray with that in mind. A lot of people who pray thinking that God is not going to provide unless, and they have these impossible conditions that they place upon themselves in order for God to be responsive. That's happening in their mind only, not the truth of being. Okay? Prayer is not an act of trying to overcome God's reluctance. God is never reluctant. God is pure love and nothing less. Pure love is never reluctant to be love, to present love, to walk as love, to treat us as love. But he says, when he says that prayer is not an act of trying to overcome God's reluctance. He said, but prayer should be an active acceptance of God's highest willingness. What do you think God's highest willingness for you is? I could tell you. A lot of people say, I don't know what my purpose is. Your purpose is to fulfill the highest willingness of God. And that is to be as God-like, to be as pure spirit walking every day, like that likeness. You have fulfilled your purpose. Because when we understand that, we will love unconditionally. When we understand that, we will know the truth beyond shakeability. We won't be shaken in knowing the truth. When we understand that, we'll always walk in the light, never in the darkness. When we understand that, we will feel a kind of connection to the universe that most people go to the mountains to feel. Most people go to India to feel. Most people go through a lot of financial expense to feel. It can be done right where you are in that very moment. That's the fulfillment of our purpose. Our purpose is to represent God in the best way that we can. And you know the wonderful thing about that is, when you were made in the image and likeness of God, God said, that's how you can present me the best way. That's how I want to present. I want you to present me just the way you are, in the best of the way you are. What's preventing us from doing that? Erroneous thinking, erroneous teaching, false beliefs. When are we going to wake up to the truth of our being? That's the challenge we have. Essential. It says prayer is essential, not to the salvation of the soul, for the soul is never lost, but to the conscious well-being of the soul that does not understand itself. That's why essential prayer is good. That's why prayer is essential. So I wanted to go over, there are 7 points that came as a result of the reading that we've had from myself and from Gary. Number 1, we spoke about this already. Prayer is not an act of trying to overcome God's reluctance, but should be an act of. Number 2, prayer enables us to establish closer contact with the fountain of wisdom. Do you want wisdom? Do you want to be able to tap into a source of wisdom anytime you feel like it, without having to do any rituals, without having to run off in the bathroom and be alone? Here it is. Prayer enables us to establish closer contact with the fountain of wisdom, and we are less likely to be influenced by appearances around us to judge according to appearance. In other words, once you are connected to that, you are not deceived or manipulated into judging by appearances. So how do we practice that in the middle of coronavirus? One of the things that makes my heart hurt is when I watch TV and I see people who are offering themselves, offering their life up to help others. Nurses, doctors who do not have the kind of equipment they need, who are risking their own life, their own well-being to help someone else. Those people need our support. Those people need our love, our prayers. Those people need our way. We need to treat not only that they are protected, but that they are provided with a means to take charge of their own personal health in their own hands and not dependent on someone else. They need to be empowered to take care of themselves because they know how. They just have not had the tools. Our prayer needs, when you pray aright, you get an answer right away. Today, I believe I'll take us through an experiment. And I believe before the end of that experiment, the coronavirus is beginning to die at a rapid rate. and it's going back to where it came from. I urge you to join me in that belief, because if we don't agree, we're not going to get results. Remember, Jesus said, where 2 or 3 or more are gathered together, there am I in the midst. It means the collective consciousness, thank you, the collective consciousness has more power when there is agreement, because there's no conflict going on. So that's number 3. Now, that was number 2. Number 3 says conscious commingling, conscious commingling of our thought with spirit is essential to the well-being of every part of us. Do you want to feel a sense of wellness everywhere, from the top of your head to the soles of your feet, from the tip of your nose to the tip of your toes? You want to feel vitality, energy, pep, power. It says conscious commingling of our thought with spirit is essential to the well-being of every part of us. There isn't a certain part of you that is not like God. You look at your toes. Do you like the shape of your toes? You ever say, boy, ooh? You ever look in the mirror and say, oh, no? No. Listen, you're made in the image and likeness of God. What's not to love? What's not to like? What's not to take best care of? The gift that we have is so powerful that we miss it because it's too glaring in front of us. We get blinded by our own light, by our own radiance. You could really say to yourself, I am a radiant center of the presence of God. I'm a radiant, vibrant center of this great spirit that created and sustains this universe. When we start identifying it like that, we begin to see that we are gifted beyond our measure to use. We can't even use all the gifts we're given. Number 4, that which tends to connect our minds with the universal mind lets in a flood of its consciousness. I want my mind to be flooded with the consciousness of God. I want my mind to be so flooded with the consciousness of God that I can't think of anything else, that I cannot have a wrong thought, that I cannot have a thought that slaps me in the face and betrays me, that I have betrayed, that says to me, wake up, you son of a dunce. Oh my. Number 5, it says, God is real to the one who believes in the Supreme Spirit, real to the soul that senses its unity with the whole. If you close your eyes for a minute, just try this. Let's experiment this. I want you to think about what's outside your body right now. What's outside of your body? Go beyond the chair, beyond the person next to you, beyond the room you're sitting in, beyond the house, beyond the streets, beyond the town, beyond the state, beyond the country. Go, go, go beyond the whole planet Earth. You know what's around the planet Earth? What's keeping it in balance? What's making it spin? This beautiful blue diamond that spins in the middle of the atmosphere, in the outer space. What's holding that together? That's what surrounds you. That's what's holding you together. All right, come on back. Come back with me. So Holmes says, the universe is a spiritual system Its laws are those of intelligence. We approach it through the mind. Remember I said earlier, it's about the mental, it's about the mind connection, which enables us to know, to will, and to act, to prayer, to faith and belief are closely, all of these are closely related to mental attitudes. Belief, prayer, act, will, knowledge, all of that are mental connections that we have to that one great presence that is pure love. Pure love. That's number 6. Number 7. Prayer is a mental approach to reality. It is not the symbol, but the idea symbolized that makes prayer effective. Do you know what that means, the idea symbolized? I'll tell you. The idea symbolized is your mental image of what you desire. What you desire is the symbol. That idea must be symbolized. So when you symbolize the idea, that's the mental equivalent. When you use the mental equivalent of what you like, what you want to treat for, what you want to pray about, you are using the most powerful, the most effective approach to prayer. So when we pray, we don't just use words, we use images. Our words help us to create an image. Our words help us to see the answer to the prayer. That's why the prayer is its own answer. Because when a prayer is its own answer, it's saying without any doubt, this is what is supposed to happen. This is the result of my prayer. When you could say that with confidence, you have created a mental equivalent that fulfills itself. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy when we pray. If you don't see it as that, your prayer is not going to feel like it's being answered. Prayer is always answered. You know that? And all the answers, a lot of the answers that come, we don't want because that's not what we prayed about. At least that's what we thought. But when you use the prayer, the idea symbolized, you have created a mental equivalent, and that makes your prayer effective. So I said we were going to do an experiment. I want you to go with me on this one. Susan, if you could play some music, that would be wonderful. I would appreciate the music behind my words. I want you to close your eyes. Let your eyelids fall gently closed as in sleep. Begin to notice your breathing. Visualize planet Earth, that beautiful blue diamond floating in space. Now, somewhere around 7 to 8 billion people live on this planet. All of us in this service this morning live on this planet right now. We are on the planet right now. And you know, everything that supports life is present in abundance. Now, among the 8 billion people, everyone in the service here today are part of it. A great number of these people I'm talking about are experiencing a high level of free will are you one? Many, if not all of us here at this service today, have a relatively good understanding of freedom and the power of thought and the power of prayer. I am living each moment in your own special way to take a few moments and focus with me now. I want you to see our world as a beautiful place in which we live. Can you see the beauty? The beauty of nature. Beautiful roses, beautiful flowers, leaves, trees, rivers, oceans, blue skies, white clouds. Can you see the beauty of nature? Neil took us through some of this in his meditation. Let's go. The systems and organized ways we have created and contributed to life, to our own lives, and to the lives of others. Let us look at how we take care of one another. I'm inviting you now to, if you agree, to see our world as a place that contributes to vibrant, healthy people, free of fear, free of disease, which is dis-ease, free of failure, free of the coronavirus. The coronavirus, which you can picture as a completely lifeless nothingness and a dried up, lifeless as ground rock. It's done. It cannot live in human bodies. It has returned to the nothingness from whence it came. Look at all the people who still are in hospital right now, worldwide. And look at them happily walking out of hospitals everywhere. Can you imagine hospital doors swinging open and those people who were on all sorts of life-saving gadgets are able to, on their own, stand up and walk out in health? Begin to see life as we knew it before any illness, any disease, and especially before coronavirus came around. We return with more vibrancy. You see people hugging, singing, laughing, and loving life. No death. There is peace, not fear. There is power, not weak surrender. There is joy, and love. Joy and love have taken over the planet everywhere. I said, joy and love have taken over the planet everywhere. Yes. It is the symbol, not the symbol, but the idea symbolized that makes this prayer effective. I'll count to 10 seconds, become complete, and we can open our eyes. Now, Gary, if you can please put the affirmation back up. The affirmation for our month. And let us say that together, not individually, but collectively. Let us say it together. Hold it a minute. Let us begin. Today, I consciously choose to center my focus on the universal life source, the life of all life, knowing the truth of wholeness and completeness as they exist in one. I recognize both feminine and masculine are sourced in that oneness of all life. I embrace the eternal truth of oneness as I evoke the creative feminine energy from within. I recognize that creative power responds to my conscious impulses and turns them into life-fulfilling experiences. I find joy in the mystical function of the universal feminine creative power, which brings my desires into form. Indeed, there is a power in the universe that responds to my impulses. This is good and very good. And so it is. Do you believe it? Yes. I want you to take time to muse, take time to reflect, take time to be silent, take time to be in awe, take time to contemplate, take time to meditate, take time to be alone, take time to be quiet, take time to hear the silence, and take time to know yourself. I want to leave you with one thing. How many people here know Psalm 23, the 23rd Psalm? All right, I'm going to give you Patrick's version of the 23rd Psalm. You will recognize it. Here it goes. The Lord is my sustainer and my guide. All that I possibly need has been provided. I rest in pleasant comfort and infinite potential. I am eternally refreshed. I am guided into right choices and right action so that I serve the highest level. Though darkness, disappointment, even death appear, I remain at the center of peace. For I am assured of my oneness with God. Before me is prepared a feast, and even in the midst of pain, I am honored with great abundance as a member of the royal household. My life is supple and sweet with the oil of divine love. I overflow in goodness and grace all the days of my life, and I live in divine radiance forever. That's the 23rd Psalm in today's language. I love you all. Thank you so much for sticking this out with me and knowing that we have just cured our world. All right? You believe it?
Yes.
I see nods. Very good. Thank you very much. God bless.
Namaste.